Welcome to Your Success Podcast. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go. Here are your hosts, Angelos and Mo.
Your Success Podcast is proudly sponsored by Your Tax Partners, specialists in helping business owners and property investors to understand the wide range of tax issues that impact on their income, gains, and overall wealth. Now, let's get into the show.
So welcome to Your Success Podcast. I'm Angelos.
And I'm Mo.
And today we're privileged to be joined once again by Peter Hill, partner at Mark Holt Co and author of Pricing for Profit, who has decades worth of experience helping to turn around businesses into profitable enterprises. So today we're talking about holidays and business owners taking holidays and some of the difficulties that go along with that, which is quite appropriate because I think it's the second day of winter. It's absolutely pouring it down here in Plymouth. So I think the idea of going on holiday is really, really appealing. So I guess the first question we have for you, Peter, is the businesses you've consulted with, is there reluctance as an owner to go on holiday, and why is that?
There definitely is, yes. But I think when I looked at my different clients and their different circumstances, situations, I think it changes over time. So I think if you take it in stages, as a startup, as a small business, there absolutely is a reluctance to go, because if it's a one-man band business, when they're gone, the business stops. No one's raising a bill, no one's earning any money. So for some of those micro businesses, the reluctance is obvious and reasonable, which is if I'm not there earning money, no one's earning money. And quite often they haven't got a lot of cash, so they can't really afford a holiday. So I think if we park that to one side and say for those small businesses, yeah, it's understandable, fact of life, you've got to be careful when you start up a small business that if you're not there earning money, no one is. I think the slightly larger businesses, so you've got a team of people, you've got people doing different aspects of the job, I do think a lot of my clients struggle to get to the point where there is complete trust that they will do the work properly when that person is on holiday. So again, that is quite typical that if I'm not there and a problem crops up, how are they going to handle it? What are they going to do? And I think that's a question of trust, not of honesty, but trust of their judgment calls, of their ability to make the right decisions. There's always that concern for some of those businesses, which is the minute I walk out the door, they'll put the feet on the desk and start drinking coffee and reading newspapers. It isn't true, but you can understand why that concern is there. And I think part of that is also this transition for small businesses, which is, by the time I've trained him, I could have done that job. I'll just do it myself. Or they can't do it as well as I do it, so I better do it myself. And of course, that never changes. If you don't actually teach that person to do what you do, you will always be doing that. And whether you talk about it from a holiday context, can I go on holiday if I don't trust them? Or whether you talk about it from the context of it will never grow unless you learn to trust them, that is definitely a transition many clients struggle with, is a point where you go, I have to accept they'll only do it 80% as well as I will, but otherwise I have to keep doing it. So I think that's definitely a problem. That's definitely a challenge for small business owners, is to learn to trust and let go. And we'll talk about in a moment, how can you do that then? And then finally, many larger businesses, I think for many clients, there is a reluctance to go on holiday because actually they might work out you're not needed. They might go, what did he do when he was here? And I think people do worry about, in bigger organisations, if they learn to cope without me, they might learn to cope without me. So people don't like letting go because they might realise that actually, we don't need him. So I think small businesses definitely, but that's more practical challenges. If you're not there, no one's earning money. Medium-sized businesses, it is about this transition from, if you don't do it all yourself, you've got to learn to teach people to do it and trust them to do it. And for big businesses, definitely there is an element for some people of, I don't want to go away because they might realise they don't need me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of systems and processes can be put in place to help reduce the stress of hassle on going on holiday? And actually, if you maybe give us a couple of examples of how you implement that and how you keep that updated, because it's not just a one-off exercise, right? It's
no, you're right. It is a never-ending exercise, I guess. But the principle is, if I want to go on holiday, now we're a 5-partner firm, so I can go on holiday and there's 4 other partners who will pick up the slack. And if there is a crisis, I trust their judgment to pick up the slack. In a owner-managed business where I might be the only decision maker at that level, I think the challenge is you've got to create that trust. You've got to get the confidence in your team, and that doesn't happen just because you want it to. That happens because you put processes in place to make it happen. Now, one of the things that I've had with a couple of clients is, okay, let's do a dummy run. Okay, so I'm not actually going on holiday, but you're going to work and you say, look, I've got a stack of work to do this week. I really want to take time out in my office to do the work. So I want you guys to pretend I'm not here. Now if there's a crisis, if something crops up, I'm really here, but I want you to pretend I'm not here. And therefore, the other side of your office door, you can actually see how they get on. Now, if there is a crisis, they'll bring it to you because you are there, you're not in Spain or something. And you might get a few where they go, oh, there's a man at the door and he says he's got delivery, but we don't know who it's for. Really? If I wasn't here, why have you brought that to me? So you've got the opportunity to challenge, and if they come in with something mundane, you go, we talked about this, I'm not here, sort it out. Oh, okay, I'll do that. If they bring you one, you go, thank goodness they brought me that one, because that would have been a nightmare. Great, you're learning where their decision-making boundary lines are. So I think you can have a dummy week, pretend to be on holiday, see what comes out of it, see what issues crop up, see who does and doesn't make decisions, find out whether they make lots of decisions and you think, oh, I wish they hadn't because they made some wrong ones, or whether they struggle to make decisions at all because I don't know what he would do, what can I do? So I think that's a really good way of practicing, is where you come up with look, I'm going to do some year-end planning, I'm going to do some marketing and sales stuff, I'm in the office, pretend I'm not here for the entire week and just see what happens. And you'll learn who steps up, who doesn't, you'll learn the level of their decision-making confidence. And when you know some of that stuff, then you can start to improve it. One of the techniques we use a lot and have done for many years is we have a thing called POP, P-O-P. So somebody comes in and says, oh no, this has happened. And you go, right, okay, so what's the position? I want facts. Tell me exactly what's happened. What's the client moaning about? What's the problem that's occurred? What's the crisis that happens? Tell me the facts, because often they'll run and go, oh, this has happened, and they haven't got all the detail yet. So before you do anything else, I want the position, facts, details. Then I want some options. What could we do? So if a client comes in and he's unhappy, you could say, I think you're being unreasonable, go and find another supplier. That's an option. You could say, I'm terribly sorry, full refund, no questions asked. You could say, okay, I'm really sorry you're upset. Can we get into why you're upset and can we explain it? So whatever the issue is, there will be 2 or 3 options. But don't come to me with a problem without having thought through what some of those solutions might be. And then finally, well, what's your proposal? If I were not here, of the 3 options you've just given me, which one would you do? So by going through that process, one is they have to be clear on the facts. So instead of going, oh, the client's unhappy, but why is he unhappy? What's the facts? If he's unhappy about a 20 quid invoice, give him a credit note. If he's happy about a £20,000 invoice, that's a different issue. So get the facts, what are the options? And the more they do it, the more they'll go, oh yeah, I've seen it before, we could have done that, could have done that, could have done that. And then the most important bit is, well, what would you do if I were not here? And when you do that, they bring you the problem with facts, they bring you some options, they give you a proposal. Now, early on, you might go, I wouldn't have picked that one, I'd have picked that one, and this is why, and this is how I've made my decision. I see where you come from, but I wouldn't have done it that way. Eventually, when you do that enough, they come up with the right answers.
I love that. I think that POP is amazing. Do you think it works at home? Can you get your
Yeah,
no comment.
There's a whole book called, is it Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, which is, I'm not sure that does work in quite the same way.
Well, let us know, Mark.
Yeah, I'll try it. I'll let you know.
I think that, whether it's domestic, whether it's business, whether it's kids, whatever. I've got 4 relatively grown-up kids, and they will still come to me and say, "Oh, Dad, this got wrong." You go, well, hang on, before you go any further, what's the problem? And invariably you find out the problem is nowhere near the magnitude they have dressed it up to be. They just jump in with, it's a problem. And the more you train them, particularly because I've got 2 at university at the moment, I'm not there. I can't fix it easily. Yeah. What would you do? How would you do it? I think you can teach children to problem solve. I think you can.
And it's a great skill to problem solve.
I don't think schools do it enough. But going back to the business context, I think whether it's preparation for a holiday or whether it's just stopping problems landing on your desk, the POP, we used to many years ago, actually have it stuck on the door, POP, before you enter my office. Have you got clear facts? Have you come up with some ideas of what you would do with it? And are you clear on what your option is that you would choose? If you haven't, go away and come back when you have. And the more you do that, invariably you'll probably find that 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, their answer is your answer. And then you can go on holiday with, no guilt.
Yeah. So it's concentrating, reiterating. That's brilliant.
And did you took it off the door because people just understood it after a period of time?
I think when we moved offices, we've got to stick
But
culturally, it is something that people would probably not come to me now with a problem alone. They would come to me now with a problem, and I think we should do this. Now, again, they might come with this is a problem and this is what I think, and they haven't come to me with 4 options. They come to me with their proposal. But again, all they've done is cut out the unnecessary bit in the middle because they've thought enough about it and they know enough about the business to know that that's the way we would handle that problem. So I don't mind if they shortcut from P to P because I don't need to know what their 3 thoughts were. And the more you do that, the better they get at it and the more comfortable you get with it.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Just one quick thing as well on sort of systems and processes and handover documents and all that kind of stuff. How do you keep that updated as a big business and as a growing business as well? Because it's constantly changing, and it's how much time do you allocate towards sort of like income producing activity versus actually maintaining manuals of handbooks and things like that?
Well, we have it perhaps a little bit worse than you because the Institute of Chartered Accountants compel us to do some of that stuff. So we have employee handbooks that are literally 3 inches thick. In all honesty, do I think any employee has read that handbook? No, I don't. But there is a manual to go to. Has anyone ever gone to it to work out how to do something? No. Now, we are fortunate at the size of 50-ish people that if somebody were not there, we don't need to go to the manual because somebody else knows how to do that job. In a small business, when the finance person's not there and there's no other finance person there, then you do need to leave some clear guidance behind. And I think some of that is you can write it up into a system, procedure and a manual, which is the way we should do it, and nobody ever looks at it. Alternatively, you could just say, right, before you go on holiday, give me an update, write down, where's that at, where's that at, where's that at? And we do that. We'll come on to that with the next question because some people handle it in different ways. But I think it's really a question of making sure that it's possible for someone to step in and pick up where a transaction is at or where a job is at, without having to go to a manual that says, follow step 7 because that's the right answer. I think the reality is for every business, if you ran the business on the basis that if anyone didn't turn up for work the next day, the machine kicks in and this happens, you'd have spent all your money on building systems and procedures that you wouldn't have any profit left over to run the business. There is an element of risk in every business that if somebody is off sick unexpectedly, the proverbial hits the fan. We'll deal with it, It depends on your business. My daughter is training to be a doctor. We keep making the distinction between if I mess up one day, somebody pays a tax bill that I can get back next time, or somebody has a bill they weren't expecting and I might have to take some money on the chin. If she's a doctor and she messes up, the consequences are far more serious. In most of the clients I deal with, the consequence of a small delay or a messing up something up is fixable at low cost, and building systems and procedures to avoid it ever happening is more expensive than the benefit that it brings.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Peter. So, remote working. You're on holiday.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure we've all been on the beach and we've received that text message or phone call, the server's blown up or this client's not happy or whatever it may be. I know there's a law that's recently been passed in Germany where an employer can't contact their employee whilst out of hours, let alone on holiday.
Yeah.
As a business owner, that's slightly different. How do you think a balance can be achieved there?
I think it's a personal choice. Interestingly, in our practice, we have 5 partners in the firm. Neil Huntley, I know, when he goes on holiday, he switches off. He will not touch his phone. Well, he might use it for Facebook or whatever, but he will not deal with emails. He will not take phone calls. And that's fine. If that's the way he wants to run his holiday, completely understand. But to do that requires an awful lot of effort before he goes, telling clients he's going to be away, making sure transactions are completed wherever they can be in advance, handing over copious amounts of information to the people left behind that if I'm not here, this might happen, that may happen, this is a possibility, if that, then this. You've got to do an awful lot of preparation to cut completely, I'm out for 2 weeks and I won't see you or hear from you again. And then when you come back, all that stuff excuse me, has to be picked up and finished off. If that's your choice, that's fine. My personal choice is, I usually go on holiday, I'll be up at 7 in the morning, I'll be down on the sunbeds, not so bad now, but when my kids were younger and you had to get 6 sunbeds together, if you didn't get there early, you didn't get sunbeds, but I would get up early, I'll be down by the pool by 7 o'clock, and then I've got 2 or 3 hours of golden time, reading, thinking, planning, whatever it is I choose to do, uninterrupted, peace and quiet. I love that. And during that time, I will check my phone. And like most situations, there might be 25 emails that have come in overnight. 24 of those are delete, 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 delete. And one of those might be, oh yeah, okay, Will, can you deal with this? Nothing ever crops up that requires me to kick into work gear and spend half a day fixing things. And for the sake of 5 minutes, delete, 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 or Will, can you deal with this? Or I'm not sure what Peter said about this, and I can respond with, I said this, do that. It takes 5 minutes, and then I can put the phone down and go, right, the rest of the day's mine, relax. And therefore, I don't have to do huge amounts of preparation work to go, because I'm taking my phone and I'm checking my emails. I still put out of office on, people know I'm away. If there's a big deal halfway through, you've got to do a bit of handover. But on the whole, I'd rather have 5 minutes every day, keeping everything under control and relaxed, than all the effort required to be incommunicado for 2 weeks. So I think there's a personal choice element there. I think there's a wider issue, which is not just about holidays, which is, I was dealing with emails last night at 10 o'clock. I think culturally, Germany, I saw the same thing in France. Your systems in France must not allow work emails to get to your phone out of office hours. The company is at risk if they don't stop that happening. Not, we don't expect you or want you to deal with them. You can't let the email get through. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think most of us are finding ourselves on duty 24/7.
Because you feel that obligation, even if you know it's for tomorrow, you think, well, does my boss want me to reply now? Maybe I should reply now. I'm looking for that pay rise. I'll reply at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I think we're addicted to mobile phones. That's the problem. Whether it's an email or a text message or social media or something else, you can't put it down. You get the shakes if you put it down.
I feel like it works both ways though, because we are also becoming more flexible as businesses and as employers, that people can, if there's something that pops up, they can just come into work a bit later or work from home because they've got the ability to do a meeting on their phone or via a Google Meet. So it's sort of, if you get into the area of not sending emails or not communicating after 5, you then almost get coming back to like people clocking in and clocking out, and then really losing that flexibility. I think it has to work both ways for me.
I think it does work both ways, and certainly in our organisation we have people who work extra hours and they do what needs to be done because they know it's important to do that. Do I think culturally, my kids, most people are handcuffed to their mobile phones, whether it's emails or text messages or social media? I think culturally that is a problem. People aren't sleeping very well, kids aren't concentrating at school. There's all those issues. There's a lot of stuff in the press at the moment about mental health and stuff like that. Being connected 24/7 is not good for your mental health. I completely agree with that. The issue specifically of work-related communications, which isn't just email. If I was on holiday and something really kicked off, could they ring me? Well, I certainly can remember back when I was on holiday, they'd have to ring the hotel and get put through to the room, and was I in the room at the time? But people never did it because it was just too difficult. Now you ring the number and the mobile phone rings on the other end. So I think my personal preference is to have a light touch of contact so that I can actually relax, not worry what's kicking off, not worry what's going on. I can check it every day, deal with it as I choose to. Others make the choice, which is no, when I'm on holiday, I'm on holiday. I don't want anything to do with it. And it's a question of what it requires to have that level of detachment. But I think that's true for everyone. If you're the business owner, can you ever really switch off? Could you ever really go, I'm not there, I don't care, I'm not interested, somebody else will deal with it? That's not what business owners are like. That's just not in their DNA. That's why they're business owners. That's why they're business leaders. And therefore, all you can really do is minimise the level of interruption by teaching your people to do what they do better than they do it at the moment.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier, Peter, about business owners, people in general, really planning their holiday better than some of the aspects in their business. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, we all like to have nice holidays. My wife and I were talking to some people yesterday. It's somebody's 50th birthday. They want to go over to Krakow for a long weekend, etc. It's next April, but they're planning flights and they're planning hotels and all that sort of stuff. Now it's a big group and it takes coordination and stuff like that. You want to get cheap flights, so you book it in advance. So we are making quite detailed practical arrangements for something that's not happening for 6 months. And I would say less than 10%, and it could be a lot less than that, less than 10% of my clients would actually have any idea what their cash flow was more than a month away. So when we're booking holidays, we are thinking long-term planning, and yet when we're running our businesses, we're just not looking beyond the end of the month. Have I got enough cash to pay the wages this month? And that's crazy, isn't it? That's madness to not put the same level of effort into planning the direction and the future of your business than you do into your annual holiday. When you think your holiday might cost £5,000 or £10,000, but making mistakes in your business costs significantly more than that. I think the other thing with holidays, which I touched on in one of the great ideas that we produced recently, was when I had a trip to Copenhagen the other day on business, the flight is at 6:05. So I'm working back 6:05, got to be there an hour and a half beforehand, got to park the car. How long is it going to take me to park the car? How long is it going to take me to get from Plymouth to Heathrow? What if there's a problem on the motorway? Do I need petrol on the way? When am I going to eat? I'm working backwards to go, okay, it's 3.5 hours away. I'll allow 7 hours. That's the reality, because I can't arrive at 6:03 and the plane's gone. But if I arrive 2 hours early, I've just got 2 hours to kill at the airport. So when we are talking about holidays particularly, we are planning a huge contingency of time, because we know if we miss that deadline, game over. We've just missed a flight. And when you talk to some of the businesses, they're going, okay, end of the month, I've got wages, VAT, it'll be all right, it'll be okay. If they had an absolute, which is if you are 1 penny over your overdraft limit, your business will be shut tomorrow by the cash police, who turn up and say, no, too late, you missed it, you've got it wrong, by 1 penny, your business is shut. You would run your cash flow much, much better with a buffer, with a contingency, because you go, well, hang a minute, I can't afford to be a penny over the line, I've got to be 20 grand under the line. So in the way that we plan our trips and build in time contingencies and unexpected events and uncertainty, because the plane won't wait for us, we don't do that when we run our businesses. And as a result, I have lots of clients who go, I've got to pay the VAT tomorrow and I'm 10 grand short. I'll ring the bank manager. But the bank managers hate it if you ring up saying, can I have 10 grand? You weren't expecting to lend me tomorrow because I didn't plan ahead. They don't like that. They will do it, but they don't like it. If you said, I can see a glitch in 4 months' time when my corporation tax bill and VAT and PAYE all coincide, can we budget for that? They'll go, yeah, can I just see up-to-date account? No problem at all, we'll sort it out. And that's one of the distinctions I see between holidays and business planning is holidays, we put a lot of effort, we build in contingencies, we set aside money, we think ahead, we decide, where we're going to stay, what we're going to do. And with businesses is right, heads down, full steam ahead, fingers crossed nothing goes wrong. And that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some really great insights there, Peter.
Yeah,
can you tell people how they can make contact with you and where they can find your book?
Well, as usual, they can get us through the Mark Holt Co website, www.markholt.co.uk. All of my contact details on there. You can buy the book on Amazon, you can buy it on the publisher's website, which is Kogan Page. Get in contact, pick up the phone, send me an email.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Peter. And we want to know your thoughts on this topic. Do you manage to go on holiday without feeling guilty? How do you do it? What systems and processes have you got in place? Pop your comments in on the live video and also email us at hello@yoursuccesspodcast.com or getting in touch on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
So thanks again, Peter.
Well, just one thing before we go, because it just popped into my head. I went on a course 20 years ago and the guy said, do you want to know the secret to having 4 holidays a year? And we went, yeah. He said, go down the travel agent and book 4 holidays. Because once you book them, you will find the time and you will find the money and you will plan for having that time out of the organisation. He said, if you wait till you're not busy or wait till I've got a bit of spare cash, it will never happen. And I think, therefore, your question about how do small business owners get more holidays, go and book it, the rest will work out.
Yeah, I like that.
I love that.
Brilliant. So thank you again, Peter.
My pleasure.
And thank you for listening to Your Success Podcast at home. Please click subscribe, leave us a review, and we look forward to your comments on our Facebook page and YouTube channels. And don't forget to Buy our book, Your Success on
we haven't
Amazon.
actually got any copies with us. We
No.
usually have a copy just on the table. But
We're humble like that,
Yeah,
Peter. So I've been Angelos,
and I've been Mo.
and I'll see you again on the next exciting episode of Your Success Podcast. Your Success Podcast is proudly sponsored by Your Tax Partners. If you're in business or an active property investor, talk to them to better understand your tax affairs and your options. If that's you, there is a special offer waiting for you at tiny.cc/successpod. That's tiny.cc/successpod.
You have been listening to Your Success Podcast. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.yoursuccesspodcast.com.